right, welcome back to I Don't Believe in Side Quests. I'm Gabe.
I'm Lauren.
And in this episode, we're going to be going over the CW's Nancy Drew Season 2. Usually, we kind of do a catch-up in the beginning, but we got a lot to talk about.
We're on a schedule.
We're just going... Yeah, we're on a schedule, so we're just going to go right into it.
So, friendly reminder that this is my first time watching this season and going through all of this. I don't know what's coming up next. So I was truly writing down everything. I have like 40 pages of notes because I was taking very specific notes on every single episode of everything that I thought could possibly be noteworthy or possibly be pulling in and leading to the conclusion. And there was so much that I missed that every episode I was like, what? We're doing what now? It was crazy. This season was so much fun.
I feel like part of it too, though, was like they had some kind of like fluff episodes or a little bit of like filler episodes where like stuff happened and things moved a little bit, but it didn't necessarily like relate or impact the overall.
Yeah.
Sorry. This is also my first time too. I have not seen this before. I just watched everything in one go. Where you've been taking your time, bless you.
But no, I totally agree, because season 1 was all about solving one mystery. And then season 2 is just like getting in more of an episodic situation where, yes, there's themes, and near the end of the season, absolutely, we kind of focus in on some specific mysteries that are overreaching over the whole thing. But there are a lot of episodes which are self-contained mysteries that drop little breadcrumbs. And I loved that. I thought that was such a great time. Most of the mysteries, if not all of them, were supernatural related, whether they were ghosts or whether they were spirits or witches or whatever. And I had a great time with that. I feel like there's kind of a lot of times with more older mysteries and detectives, a lot of times it is very much like, nope, everything has to be explained. And so I really enjoyed the fact that they're like, no, we don't care. We're in the spirit realm now, and this is what we're doing. So I loved that.
I loved it too. Part of it, I feel like we talked about this in episode 1 in the first, like when we were talking about the first season, that a little bit of me is like a little sad because I felt like some of what made Nancy Drew kind of scary was, or at least for me, was, is it supernatural or is it explainable? You were like, you just didn't know up until the very end. And I felt like they kind of lost that, but that it was okay they did because they made it their own. And like, we just full sent it to supernatural, you know what I mean? Like season 2, they just said we're full on going. Season 1, you're like, I don't know, kind of until the end, but we full sent, and I think that's like what made it great.
At the end of season 1, it was a human. That's true. Gleico was there, so the supernatural element was there, but the killer was a human doing a poison. Like, there wasn't supernatural work going on with the core Lucy mystery for season 1.
Well, a little bit there was, though, because I think the ghost was real. Yeah.
Yeah, but the murder that happened, like her death and then the woman's death. What's her name? Everett's wife.
Oh. Why am I Cecilia?
No, that's his mom.
No. You're right.
Anyway, not important. The woman who dies and kicks our whole show off, that was a human murderer.
Oh, sorry. I'm thinking about... Wait, are you talking about Ryan?
Yes, thank you. Everett's his dad. Ryan's wife.
That's why I said... Okay, I was like, what are you...
No, you're right.
It doesn't matter. Her name's not important. Right. She's there for like...
a second. Yeah. Anyway, but yes, the murder that was our entire attention, or the majority of our attention, and the reason for why season 1 was what it was was a human committing this crime. And then we go
Yes.
into season 2. So if you remember at the end of season 1, the Aglaika is back. The Aglaika is coming for all of them. So that's
right, because they thought they had got rid of it, right? At the end of season one, they thought they did something to get rid of
because they
it.
had Ryan as Nancy's dad, and they were doing their blood together. And so they were doing this ritual that they thought stopped the Aglaika. And then they found out that the cute Marvin boy wasn't killed, or wasn't killed by the Aglaika. I don't know. The Aglaika ended up not being gone, and so everyone was like, oh my gosh, now she's even madder and is coming for us. So we solved the murder, and we solved Lucy Hale's ghost's existence, but now we've got the Aglaika here. And so season 2, our entire focus is like stopping the Aglaika and figuring out how to do that. And shockingly, there's a lot of moving pieces that go into this. There was a mirror that was found that was owned by the Hudsons, written by the Women in White. So the Women in White is a group of witches that we run into time after time, that grew up in this town and lived, hundreds of years ago. And so their magic is still kind of bleeding through.
They were like the originals, right? They were part of like the original colonists of that area. Did we? Okay, sorry. Did we see anything of them in season 1, or were we first like introduced, like knew who they were in season 2? Right.
I think there might have been a reference by Hannah Gruen.
That's right, when they were first learning about the Aglaika. I think.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Just because I think there were some references to like, the witches or something like that doing magic. Oh, because they summoned the Aglaika.
That's what I thought. Yes. Right. Yeah, I think so. Okay.
So then, since they had summoned the Aglaika, then Nancy and the crew was just like, okay, amazing. So they know how to send her back. So we broke a mirror to find a poem that was written by them, which then directs them to go find a sea shanty that talks about the Aglaika. And so then on their search for the sea shanty, they find a group of ghosts who the Aglaika killed, and then deal with them. And it sets the ghost spirits free when they sing the sea shanty. And then at those ghosts' graves, because there were, I think, 5 or 6 people who were killed the last time the Aglaika was summoned. So flowers had been left at those graves each year, because now we're tracking back. We're saying, okay, so we found the Women in White who originally called forth the Aglaika. And then the most recent group that called the Aglaika, now we're tracking their graves to find out what happened to them. And so we go to their graves, we find out flowers have been left at their graves each anniversary of their deaths. And we're like, what is going on? And so through the course of that episode, we learn Carson Drew is putting them there on behalf of a survivor, because there was a guy who was able to escape the Aglaika's kills. And so he was the remaining person from that group. And so then we're like, oh my gosh, okay, so how did he escape the Aglaika? And so then we learn about a Dybbuk box that survivor had been trying to build that could like pull in the Aglaika's spirit, basically.
Right, okay. I can see his house in my head. I remember now.
That episode was really creepy, because basically the guy who had survived the Aglaika attacks, basically he had this amulet around him where I think multiple times a day or very routinely, evil spirits would like be zooming around him and attacking him and haunting him. And it was keeping the Aglaika away just because he was surrounded by so many other things.
Like evil and stuff.
Yeah.
Ooh, I can't even imagine. But also, I don't know, like if you want to survive, I mean, but yeah. Is it
that was a good one. I don't know. And he was like an author, kind of like a horror author. And it was just like, yeah.
Right.
I mean, of course he's writing spooky, creepy, horrific stuff. And it cracked me up because Bess was like, oh my gosh, I love him. I love that author. And I was like, Bess, be for real. What are you talking about? Why do you love this author? It's not your vibe.
That's true though. Like, is he? I feel like that's not really living. I don't think there was really a life he was living. So,
Mm-mm.
I mean, and he had given up on trying anything else too, hadn't he?
Yeah.
So it's just like,
Well, he was trying to
yeah.
create that box.
Well, oh, that's right. No, you're right. You're right.
He was just, yeah. He was trying to create a Dybbuk box, which we learn is a Jewish belief or story. And then we find out that Ace is Jewish. And so, again, another thing of like, oh, Ace is going to come along and have this random knowledge to save the day. It's fine. And
I still love
I,
Ace.
I love him too. I'm just complaining.
That's fine. I will say Dybbuk boxes are like a real thing
Right.
though. Like it wasn't just made for the show.
Right. And that's the thing
Yeah.
about all of these stories and these ghosts and these spirits and this magic and whatever that goes on. I really respect the writers for this show because they did research and they were like, okay, so what's something about the spirit? And so they will look through different areas and different groups and different mythologies and different stories and try to find real things that people believe and have in their histories. So
yeah, the Aglaika story was so tragic. It was so tragic.
I know. So speaking of the Aglaika story, that's what we get into then is that we find out her backstory. So basically, her name's Odette, and Captain Marvin had gone over on a ship with her and married her while they were at sea so that he could take her riches, and then killed her while she was out at sea. And then
in an awful way though. He like she tossed out the boat and drug along the bottom behind the boat and stuff. Oh, it's just
yeah.
I'm sorry. That episode was
horrific.
It wasn't triggering, but it just it was just
Because we find out about this because Captain Marvin's second wife, who is kind of his real wife, the one that we all knew about because no one really knew that he had married Odette.
Well, and the one who did the Marvin line.
Right.
Those are right.
The matriarch of the family.
Yes.
So that second wife found out about Odette because she found love letters from Odette to her lady love back over in Europe and kept all of those letters and like understood the truth. And so Captain Marvin put her in his basement and told everyone she was going crazy and kept her down there. And so Nancy goes down and like interacts with her ghost and like finds out based on what's in the journal or whatever, the true history. And so they find all of these love letters. So they are trying to get rid of the Aglaika. They find out that reading or knowing, speaking some of the words from those love letters make the Aglaika start to turn human. So on the very last day before the Aglaika is scheduled to kill them, because it was very much a you will die in 7 days situation.
Wait, sorry, side note. How did they figure out? I don't remember. Like, I remember them reading the love letters, but how did they even figure out that would work?
So,
or was it just
yeah, so they...
Go ahead.
Who was it? It was Carson.
Was it just a guess?
Ryan,
right?
And Ned?
It might have been Ned. I think those
the
three got
three
close
boys took a road trip.
Yeah.
So another thing kind of floating around this season is that Ryan Hudson, who's just found out Nancy's his daughter, and then Carson Drew, who has raised Nancy as his daughter, the two of them are like really trying to like figure out their place, and Nancy is pushing both of them away and is just like, you lied to me, I'm not talking to you, just like get out of my life.
And you, I'm not sure if I like. You don't have a right to try and be my dad.
To both of them. Anyway, and so they both are just like devastated. So they both are like, okay, we're going to go buy this, or we're going to go try to get this Dybbuk box from this museum. And so they go, and the museum like won't lend it to them. And Ryan's just like pulls out his checkbook and is just like, all right, I'm going to buy it, or I'm going to like, I think he buys it. And it's just like, perfect. And so he brings it back and he's just like, I just bought this. And then, so they have the Dybbuk box and they have it on the beach, and the Aglaika is coming out and they're trying to trap her in the box, and it's not working. And Nancy is trying to entice. So it's kind of a guess, but she tries to entice
that's right. Okay.
the Aglaika to go more towards the box. And I think they had the letters in the box. And so the Aglaika's hand is reaching out towards the letters, and it is turning from like the sinewy ghost skeletal hand into like a real hand. And Nancy is just watching this and she's going, oh, it's the letters. The letters can help remind her of who she is and remind her that she's human. So the last day before the Aglaika kills them, they all are in a semicircle reading the love letters to her, and it doesn't work, and everyone's just like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And Nancy's like, you have to know it from your heart. You have to like just be saying them. You can't be reading them. You have to have them memorized. And so they're all just kind of yelling out random sentences that they remember, and they turn her to a human ghost, and she kind of says, okay, I'm done. And she kind of releases. And while she has been in her tornado form, wreaking havoc, things have been coming down and beams have been coming down and everything's been going flying. And so the Aglaika's gone, but then George, we turn around and she's been stabbed with a harpoon, the blood bucket that we have been watching for so long, finally came true, and she dies. And everyone is just like, oh my gosh, George is dead.
I cried.
Did you? No.
I did. I cried. I was like, they can't take one from us. How could you? And at that point I was like, no way the blood bucket's gonna do anything, right? Like, no way that means anything.
I knew they wouldn't have given us the blood bucket if they were not going to do something about it. I knew.
Listen, I hoped, okay? I still hoped. I didn't want anyone to die.
I was going to be shocked if the first... Well, I guess this was, what, episode 6 or something of the season?
I think so.
I thought...
It was like halfway through.
Yeah. I would have been very surprised if they had for sure killed her off. And spoilers...
I would have been too, yeah.
They didn't, because Nancy says, screw this. We're going to save George's life, and I don't care what goes. Like, it's getting done. No one get in my way. And so she goes into Hannah Gruen's Mystical Spirit Museum, opens up every single sealed box, and finds...
Yeah, because she shuts the power down, right? They shut the power down.
So she can get at this shroud.
There's no way for her to get it.
She has to get this shroud that's going to bring George back to life. And so she turns the power off in the museum. So everything opens, and all of the spirits and all the spiritual objects that have been kept safe and close and sealed, freedom out into the ether.
Okay, but I think it could have been okay though, right? Because it wasn't right away that happened. It was after she left. So I was like, why didn't she just turn the power back on? Or did they cut it? Is that what they did? Did they cut it? Or did she...
I think they broke it. I don't know if she like took a hatchet to it or something,
right.
But...
I think you're right. Yeah.
Because I don't think she could get into the box.
I think you're right.
Yeah. And also she was just like in a panic and was just like, we don't have time for anything.
Right. And then the shroud like brings in any nearby spirits. So because Odette was nearby and George was nearby. Swoop,
Yeah. So
Georgette.
we put the shroud on George. George comes back to life, and like in the next couple minutes, when everyone's just like, "Ah, oh, thank goodness," and relaxing and being just relieved, we see George look in the mirror, and Odette's ghost appears in the mirror next to her, or like right behind her, and we're all like, "Dun dun dun." So,
yeah, that was like the first half of the season, and then they were like, "Okay, now we got to get to the second half." And I remember when that was all leading up to it, I was like, "Is it gonna be over? Is the season gonna be over?" Nope.
no.
Psych. Yeah.
No.
It felt very like old time shows like Supernatural and all of that, where you have like the halfway mid season, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's definitely like several different storyline arcs that go on.
Yeah.
It's definitely not necessarily following a strict season by season.
Right. Like there's still the overarching, but like there's like just distinct sections within the season. Because then we jump down to focusing mainly on taking down the Hudsons.
Yeah, because we've got the Aglika done and dusted. For a while, George doesn't
Lucy.
even tell anyone that Odette is with her.
Oh, yeah.
And so everyone's just like, awesome, we're moving on. We're having a good time. It's all good. And everything just goes back to normal, quote unquote. But we do have those several one-off episodes of spirits, especially ones that were released from the museum. And we do a lot of character development and storyline building. And Bess gets kicked out of the Marvins because she apparently has an evil husband from back in England who shows up and makes her steal from her grandmother in order to save Nancy and George. And her grandmother's just like, you lied to me. Get out of here. So Bess is no longer in the Marvin family.
Totally saw that coming though. Like her having, I was like, there's got to be something. I was super I wasn't surprised by the grandma's choice, but I was super disappointed in her for just like cutting her out for that. I was like, okay, buddy.
Yeah, I know. Well, and it's like I was saying in the first season where they're kind of doing Euphoria rules where all the characters are making the worst possible decision for themselves because it creates more drama and craziness. So
true, yeah.
So Bess doesn't say to her grandma, hey, there's stuff that I'm not proud of. Like there's this guy who's come back and he is trying to ruin my life. Her grandma could have that man killed in the hour. Like
right. I know.
For taking down a Marvin,
I was like,
her grandma would be like, no questions asked. All right, let's get him out of here. But Bess is like, well, no, instead I'm going to steal a bracelet or a watch from her wrist. What?
Yeah. That was an episode where I was just like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That was, so I get like secondhand embarrassment and get really stressed out by those things, and so I could just see it coming. So there were definitely multiple times that episode that I had to pause it and be like, okay, we have to get back in it. It's gonna be whatever it's gonna be. We gotta keep moving on. We cannot just stop here.
I think I did that too.
But I just saw the entire thing going downhill so fast, and I was like, I can't watch, but I have to.
Yeah, it's like watching, what is the phrase? Like watching a car crash or whatever, like a train wreck, watching a train wreck where you don't want to watch, but like you just can't look away.
And then on George's side, she obviously has a ghost which takes over her body at certain points, and so she'll have these blackouts, and so we learn that using the shroud. Oh, and then so she has these blackouts. And then Nancy finds out about the shroud because the person who last had the shroud used on them will die once the new shroud, or once the shroud is used again. So if the shroud gets used on somebody else, George would just die because we used the shroud's power to save her, And apparently we can only have one person saved at a time.
Did they actually kill someone? Had it been used recently
Yeah,
enough? That's what
they
I
went.
thought.
Nancy
It
and
was
Bess went to a funeral. Maybe it was
right.
Ace. I don't remember who was
Yeah.
with her when they got the shroud, but Nancy and
I think it might have been Ace. Was it Bess?
I thought it was ladies. Anyway, Nancy and
Yeah.
somebody went to. They were doing something and a funeral was happening. And they're like, "Wow, that guy died the same day that we saved George." Or I think because we found out who the shroud had last been used on, and then
Oh
we were
yeah.
like, okay, perfect. Well, let's go talk to him and like see what happened. And then we found out that he died when we used the shroud on George, and we were like, oh no. So,
Yep.
and we know that Odette's a lesbian, and because she had all of her love letters to her girlie back in France.
Was she a lesbian or was she bi? She didn't like Captain Marvin,
Mm-mm.
right? Did she have any feelings for him?
No, because she was.
And she could. Was she forced into the
Oh yeah,
marriage?
she
Yeah.
and like
Okay, that's what
she
I
and
thought. Yeah, I
her
think you're right.
like I don't think it was a governess, but she and her lady's maid or something. Her lady's maid got
Yeah.
like bribed by Captain
Oh,
Marvin
that's
to
right.
um basically make it happen. So yes. So
That's
she
right. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know if she's
I think you're right. I think
unattracted
yeah,
to
she's a
men,
lesbian.
but she's definitely attracted to ladies. And so she and
Yep.
Bess are flirting. And as soon as we knew that Odette was A, gay, and B, in George's body, I was like, oh, she and Bess are going to hook up. I saw it
Yeah.
coming. I was
Yeah.
like, yes,
Yeah.
this is excellent. Having a good time. Um, so,
Oh, that's right. Cause Bess. Yeah. Cause Bess was done with the one with the girl she was with, kind of with season one.
yeah,
Oh
I know.
yeah.
I kept writing.
The one who worked for
Yeah, yeah.
Everett.
I kept putting in my notes. I was like, where's Lisbeth? Where is this woman?
Yeah.
What is happening to her?
I kind of like Odette better for Bess than
Oh
Lisbeth.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
TBH.
She's way more fun.
I
She's so
think so.
glam. Um,
Yeah, she's very just like
well, she's French,
posh,
so
but in a good way. Yes.
she's a
Well, I
French
know. She's
lady.
very
She's a rich
sophisticated.
French lady
She is.
from 300 years ago.
Bless her. I love
Mm-hmm.
her. Oh yeah, and then that's right. And George finds out that all of her sisters knew about Odette because she was like helping the one with French, and like all this stuff. And I was like, oh, that's
Because
wholesome.
George, yeah, she gets these blackouts when Odette just takes over her body. And so she just has no idea what's going on. And so she's trying to like keep the secret from everyone. She doesn't tell Ned. She doesn't tell Nancy. She doesn't tell anybody. But then one of her
Yeah.
sisters like references Odette and she's like, you know who Odette is? And all the sisters get, or, and the older sister is just like, yeah, because she's doing this and this and this. Yeah, it's so funny. Um, on Nancy's side, she has agreed to be an assistant for Carson, and she's not volunteering at the morgue. I bet she's volunteering. She's definitely doing community service.
Community service. Yeah.
She is being required to volunteer at the morgue, which is hilarious. To put Nancy in the morgue for unknown reasons. And she's trying to figure out, like, is she going to go back to college now that, you know, her life is kind of starting to get back on track? Because she was planning on going to college and was rocking and rolling before her mom died. And so that just derailed her. And so now she's kind of, you know, starting to be alive again and starting to be happy again. And so her Daddy Carson, is trying to say, hey, have you thought about going back to school or thought about maybe, you know, doing all these pieces to again help her get her life back where it possibly should have been, or at least could have been the direction she was going to go before her life was upended?
I think we can say her dad for Carson and just call
Okay.
Brian
Sounds
Brian.
good. That's emotionally where they're at.
I'm chill with that. I think so. Yeah. I agree. Oh, we didn't talk about Ace or his sister. I don't even remember his sister's name. Not Ace. The thief. The thief has a name. I don't remember his name and his sister, because they weren't in season 1.
Correct.
Right?
So yes. So Nancy.
Because they were how we helped find the mirror was with them, right?
Yeah. So Nancy.
Yeah.
So episode 1, the gang is going to try to find this mirror, which is at the Hudson's hunting lodge.
Shack. Cabin hunting lodge, yeah.
And there's a cute thief who has stolen it that we have to get it back from. And then we have his sister who works at a hotel's front desk. And so Nancy falls for this thief, and Ace falls for his sister. And so can
we give them names? Or are we just gonna call them the thief and sister?
You know how I take notes, and I refuse to do names.
My bad. It just feels so sad to be like the thief and his sister.
Oh, Bobsies, right?
Yes, the Bobsies. Oh, Amanda and Gil. That's
Gil and Amanda. Yep. Gil and Amanda. Everyone worked together to remember that.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So Nancy falls for Gil, and Ace falls for Amanda.
And so there are all sorts of funny little actions where, like, Nancy and Ace are flirting, but then, and so they're both like happy in their relationships, but they're also kind of like flirting with each other, and so they're a little like mad that each other is in this relationship with somebody else, and it's very silly.
And both of them are like, you could do better.
I know.
I feel like they're...
Which I felt weird about for Amanda. Like, Amanda's fine.
Yeah.
Gil...
She's definitely better than Gil.
Gil is hot, but, like, yeah, he's not a good guy. And so I totally... I understand why Nancy was just like, ooh la la. And there's this excellent episode where Nancy's, like, infected with this, like, kind of like a love, like, seduction potion thing. And so there's a cute detective that took over for Chief McGinnis. And so between him and
Owen?
Gil... No, Owen was the boyfriend from last episode. Or last season.
Oh, you're right.
So the detective and then Gil the thief. So Nancy's trying to choose between the two, and everyone's trying to hold her back and stop her from just mouth kissing anything in sight. And so
that's right. It's Detective Tamura.
And so she like almost kisses him, and he's definitely like, I don't know how to feel about this.
I thought they did kiss.
Mm-mm. Oh, they don't. They're really, really close. But then the stuff goes away from her.
Yeah, then it goes away.
And she's just like, oh my gosh, okay, never mind. And just walks off, and he's just like, what's happening? And then she ends up hooking up with Gil.
But didn't she also have a little bit of some underline of like, do I like Detective
Oh,
Tamura?
totally.
It's kind of
there was so much flirting. And I was just like...
There was just like so much love interest in season 2, and I was like,
they absolutely were like, Nancy and Ned, never gonna happen. We're never gonna see it. All right, everyone move on. Now let's throw all of these bad boys at Nancy and let her just start making decisions.
The Nancy and Ned still makes me sad. I feel like they did Ned dirty. Like, it makes me so sad.
Yeah.
I'm glad he's with George, though. Like, I think him and George are cute together. But it just, like, can he have just been someone else? Did he have to be Ned? You know what I mean? I don't know. It makes me sad. But I'm Team Nace. I want Nancy and Ace.
I'll
be honest.
Yes. It was interesting when she was under that, like, seduction drug, because she was hitting on, like I said, anyone in sight. And so she definitely, like, with Ned, she was just like, hey there, big boy, what's going on? But then Ace, she was just like, wow, Ace, your hair, it's like so, like, she was definitely into Ace when she was under there. And so we were just like, oh, okay, so some of your subconscious going on.
I feel like I feel like that opened the floodgates of where her brain was like, oh
Oh,
wait,
wait.
oh,
Mm.
and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, welcome, hello, you're
Join the
awake,
club,
thank
okay.
you.
Yeah.
That makes me chuckle because season 1, I think I said something about wanting Nancy and Ace together, and you were like, I don't know, and now you're like, yes.
Well, he has a real personality now.
That's
Also, I
true.
was very
That's
excited
true.
about her and cute Marvin because I was just like, oh, power couple. She's a
Oh
Hudson, he's a
yeah,
Marvin,
yeah.
like fabulous. Um,
That's true. That would have been a
and then
power
he
couple.
died, so guess we'll never do that.
I wasn't terribly upset that he died though, because I still liked Ace. Like I felt the power
I
couple,
was
but I was
bummed for
also like,
Nancy, but I was just like, say lovey.
yeah.
We'll move on.
Yes, we'll move on. I liked though how much season 2 did like focus on Carson and Ryan trying to figure out not only their place with Nancy, but like their place with each other,
Yeah.
and like trying to be friends, trying to figure out how to work together. Does season 2, where they go back to being like younger in their heads, like they revert to younger personalities, like teenage personalities? I thought that happened in season 2 when all of this stuff was running amok.
Wait, the
If you don't
kids
remember,
or
maybe
Ryan?
no, just Carson and Ryan. They revert back to they run into an object or something, and it like sends them back to their teenage years, and so they're like running amok in their adult bodies with like the teenage mindset, and they're like, never mind,
I don't
that's fine,
remember.
ignore it. Maybe that didn't happen.
I don't remember. But Carson, basically Ryan starts coming to Carson to be like, how do I be a dad? And so it's just so
It's
cute
so
because then
cute.
Carson is like, at later on in the season, Nancy really starts being like, I have to forgive my dad. Like, I miss my dad so much. And so she and Carson start making up, and he's trying to be like, hey, Ryan wants to be a part of your, like, he didn't know. And so then Carson is just like parenting both Ryan and Nancy. He's like
I
a
was gonna
grandpa
say,
to them, and it's so
I
cute.
feel like I feel like he became a dad for Ryan too.
100%.
I loved their relationship
Because
so
we
much.
know Ryan's dad, Grandpa Hudson, is like the worst person ever. And so like Ryan he didn't have a good growing up, and like he didn't have a good father figure or a role model. And so when he's trying to think of like, how do I be a dad to Nancy, he doesn't know, because he knows he doesn't want to be like his dad. And so he's looking at Carson, he's just
Right.
like, Carson, you did a great job. Like, help me
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah. And then Carson becomes a dad. And then it's just so nice. And watching them like work together, and like we were talking about that they had to take down the Hudsons.
Yeah.
And they're both like, wait, Everett can't find out
Yeah.
that Nancy is related to him. And so then they're doing all this stuff trying to figure out,
because
how to
Carson works for the
protect her.
Hudsons, so he knows how they deal with people they don't like. And so, yeah, the two of them are just like, all right, we're going to do whatever we can to protect Nancy. Let's ride.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Yeah.
from there, Ryan starts saying, all right, I'm going to try to worm my way back into the family and into my father's good graces and try to like be a good Hudson, quote unquote, to try to like take some distraction away because his dad's in prison.
Yeah. Yeah. Nancy put him there. Her testimony or something put him there.
Yes, her testimony about the ship, right?
Yeah.
Put him there. And so Ryan's trying to get back in good graces with his business. He's talking to this journalist for some family PR. The journalist is a new character that we have met, and she becomes kind of a reoccurring character at this point, and she's a really good investigator.
I knew she was sus.
I know. She discovers that Nancy is Ryan's daughter. She like does a DNA test, And then she's trying to blackmail Mrs. Hudson to be like, hey, I know you have a granddaughter. And Cecilia's like, uh-oh,
What are you
what's
talking
happening?
about?
And so my favorite episode in the entire season is one where there's this machine that removes memories. And so basically there's like a Scandinavian folklore where there's this creature that um, the more people that know its name or that speak its name, the smaller it gets. But if only like a couple people know its name or can speak its name, it's really, really big and a really, really scary monster. And so the squad is,
and
it comes for you. If you know its name, it comes for you. And so the squad has this like memory machine that sucks out their memories, and so they keep waking up and having to like leave all these notes and all of these diagrams out for themselves to remind themselves of, hey, this is how we tried to defeat it, and then once it almost tried to kill it, we had to forget its name and then start over. And so at one point, because Mrs. Hudson is talking about, or we can't trust her not to reveal Nancy's heritage, Nancy gives her or takes away her memory. And so then she's just this sweet little old lady, and she and Nancy really bond. And Nancy, when she doesn't know who she is, the two of them just bond. And Nancy's just like, as soon as we find out who we are, like, we'll make sure we know and like we'll figure it all out. And so at the end of this episode, they give each other's memories back. And Nancy says we're going to give her her memories back because, yes, she's a bad person, but like she can be good. So we give her the memories back. She's not good per se, but she remembers like how she felt about Nancy, and all of a sudden is just like, I have a granddaughter. I'm going to protect her.
I feel like at Cecilia's core, she was a good person, and I'll be honest, I feel like Everett like corrupted her and wore her down and stuff, and it's just,
I think that was I think that was part of the conversations that were happening of just like, if she was not a Hudson, who would she have been?
Right. Yeah.
So Nancy was just like, we brought her back to that. Like, I believe she can be good. And because Nancy is just like, I think Cecilia can be good. I think Celia will be like, okay, and like wants to spend more time with her grandmother. All of a sudden, Carson and Ryan start going, uh-oh. And Ned, who's really trying to take down the Hudsons, that's like his priority, is just like, I don't know if we can trust Nancy's judgment in this because she's getting into the Hudson family.
That really bothered me. When sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you said that and it just, when he was like, I don't know if he can trust Nancy. Nancy's changed this, and this. I was like, first of all, you guys aren't helping any of this because she's already struggling and like struggling with her sense of self and like what to do and who to be and how to be. It was like, the betrayal. It felt like betrayal. I was so mad at Ned and all of them when they were just like, I don't know, Nancy, you're kind of different. And it's like, well, what would you do if you realized you suddenly had to embrace some inner Hudson? Because, man, I would be scared. I'd be like, oh, gosh.
Yeah. What to do if you find out you are the enemy?
Yeah. Because they kind of need to work with, like, they needed Mr. Hudson at some point, didn't he? Or I thought there was a reason why she decided she needed to go into the family. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think she was thinking it would be taking him down.
Right.
Like, that's still her goal. She didn't want, but she was like, no, I believe that Celia is going to help me take him down because I know she can be a good person. Right. So I think Nancy was just having faith that it could be worked out. And the boys were like, well, she's not an enemy, so therefore, what's happening here?
Yeah. No, I agree. Yes. Yes.
So then Ace meets his secret half brother. Because Ace has a secret half brother, because we're getting full Riverdale at this point. We haven't gone a secret twin yet, but I feel like we're getting close.
If that shows up, I'm done.
So this half brother has secrets in this box. And this episode, we learn about a group called the Road Back. And this is something that is going to be another, just like the Women in White, the Road Back is going to be another thing that we hear about a lot. So they're basically a sneaky kind of Illuminati kind of vibe, but like bad guys. And so his half brother, the secrets in the box have dirt on some of the guys from the Road Back, and somebody is trying to get this box for those guys with the Road Back, and so Ace's life gets in danger. And Nancy's just like, you know what? I will do whatever I can to save Ace. And so she goes to her grandmother and says, help me save Ace and get the box back or whatever. And so basically her grandmother says, perfect, take back your accusations of your grandfather so Mr. Hudson can get out of jail, and I will take care of your problem. And so Nancy, who's just been getting nothing but like accolades this whole season about like, you put him in jail, like you're so brave, I'm so proud of you for doing this testimony, and like you are the reason all this is happening. And then she has to go and retract what she had told them, and it's just like, you know, I think I was like mistaken, I was using emotions, and I don't think he actually is responsible for these murders. And he gets out of jail, and then her the trust that everyone has for her and her reputation tanks. So she saves Ace, but at what cost?
Right. This is what I meant. This is what I was thinking about, sorry, when I was talking, was that she wasn't trying to get into their good graces until she had to, you know, like until something happened, and she's like, oh, I need them. That's what, yeah, that's right. Yes.
Yeah. So this is, season 2 is very much Nancy being like,
awful.
My friend's in trouble. I'm going to use whatever resources I can, regardless of the consequences, to save them.
She's a little out of control.
She's a little out of control.
She's a little out of control.
She's doing a lot.
She is.
So Hudson gets out of jail, and then there's like an out of jail party that they're gonna have, which I'm obsessed with. If you're rich, you better have an out of jail party. Like, have parties for every single reason you could possibly think of. That is the best use of your money.
Yes.
So Nancy gets invited to this. Mr. Hudson has invited her to this getting out of jail party. And Nancy's just like, okay. And Mrs. Hudson's like very nervous about it. She's very stressed about it, because she's just like, I don't trust my husband. Like, I don't know if this is a good idea. But he's saying, well, Nancy, she may have put me in jail, but she recanted her testimony. He doesn't know why, but he's like, you know what? Okay, let's see. Let's see how I can push this and how I can make this work out. So Mrs. Hudson, Celia, is planning on telling everyone at that party. She's planning on telling her husband that Nancy is their granddaughter. And so for the next couple episodes, we're just thinking and we're planning for this big party, knowing that at that party, Nancy is going to be revealed. And so everyone's just stressed.
Yeah, revealed as a bad bitch.
Yeah, so she'll...
Sorry, when she embraces her Hudson, I'm like, whoa, okay, pop off.
I know. She's just like, all right, I will become that rich socialite that I was clearly bred to be. Which I love for her.
Mm-hmm. The actress is so good for it, too. I mean, I feel like has just the classic old Hollywood beauty.
Kennedy?
you go. Yeah, like you go be that socialite, sweetie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I see it for you. I love it
I
for
know.
you.
This cast is stunning. Every single person in it is
Yes.
gorgeous.
Yes.
It's very
And they fit
rude.
their character. Like they are their character. How the show made it, maybe not canon to what we think the character is, but to how the show made it, like they are them. I think they did a phenomenal job.
And I,
And I've never seen any of them before either.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
other than
So,
Carson.
sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What are you going to say?
I was going to say that I feel like a lot of TV shows do a good job of that. Like season 1, they're spent kind of saying, okay, like let's build out, let's play with some things, let's see how your character feels, let's see how you think your character would react on this. And then season 2 can really rock and roll because they're like, all right, I have a good understanding of what everyone feels and how the characters are existing and how people are embodying the characters and what's going to feel natural and what's going to make sense for the person as well as what their character is up
Right.
to.
I think that's okay, don't quote me on this. I could be wrong, but I think they did let casts have input on what they thought their character, like how their character would react and stuff to things. And I thought that
I get that
it
feeling
just made
too.
it feel more real. And I think, yeah.
Because everything,
especially Nancy,
mm-hmm.
that actress. I think, yeah.
It's funny because all of the characters, and I know we've talked about this before, but like all of the characters have so much like anxiety over all of the secrets that they have that yes. No matter what decision they make, regardless of if it's good or bad or whatever, it makes sense for who they are. Because you're like, yes,
yeah,
Bess is going to be so paranoid and stressed out and freaked out by her ex-husband being there that she is going to revert back to the person that she was that had no other way out and just immediately forgets everything that she's learned and she's gained over time. And she's just like, you know what? I just have to do this. I have to do it by myself. And so, yeah, it's you can disagree with the decisions because, sure, logically they don't make sense. But for the character in that moment, knowing what we know about them, especially Bess's immense shame at her kleptomaniac tendencies, like, sure, does it make sense that she doesn't want to be like telling this woman that she has so much respect for and wants so badly to be adored by? She's not going to tell her what's going on. And it didn't work out because it didn't work out. But
well, and because we weren't in those circumstances, it's a lot easier for her to say we would do differently.
Oh, totally.
But honestly, if like I was her, I don't even know if I could say I would do differently because, struggling with my own trauma and PTSD, like I know I do things. I'm like, gosh, that was so, like afterwards I think about it and I'm like, that was so irrational. Yeah. Like, why did I do that? Yeah. Why did I let myself revert back to those? You know what I mean? So
yeah, just like Nancy in the car in season 1 when she's yelling at Ryan when she just needs Ryan to come with her because she cannot keep it inside. Like all of her emotions and her stress and everything is just bubbling out and it just lets loose. And then she's just like, no, what did I do? Yeah. Okay, so we're preparing for the party. A meteorite. Yes. So all of the town, the lights and the electricity and everything is acting really weird and it's going haywire. And there's a tech genius who comes to town and is just like, I want that meteorite. And they're like, okay, sure. And so they go on a search for this meteorite to find out its history. And we find that it crashed to Earth a long time ago. It brought lots of wealth to the men who owned it. So we go into this creepy, like almost a castle, kind of a crypt situation.
Yeah.
And
wait, pause for a second. Sorry. Was he is he from a side series, or did he get a spin-off after being on Nancy Drew? The tech guy.
I
I
don't know.
think he got. Okay, I think then he might have got the spin-off because he's like, because he comes back again in another episode, right? Like he's part of a. Oh, man, what was his name? Sorry, you keep going while I'll look and I'll get back to
Okay. So they're down in the crypt. They're fighting against all of these statues that are coming to life that are protecting the meteorite. We find out that the women in white cursed the meteorite because men were getting super powerful. The men who had it were getting super, super powerful. So they cursed it so that basically whoever was around it would just get a battle lust and would just fight anything that moved. And so almost all of the men died of that group who were holding on to the meteorite. And they had become really big men in town because they were so rich. And they were buying up a lot of land and they were doing a whole bunch of. So they were becoming movers and shakers in the community. The women in white were like, get this out of here. And so almost all of the men died. But there were two who survived and they moved to Chicago for unknown reasons. And they started the road back. So that's kind of our second main piece of information about the road back, other than it's a little spooky, it's a little scary. We don't, we're scared about the people who run it because they're a real sketchy organization.
Oh, Tom Swift. Does that sound familiar? Was that his name?
Tom Swift sounds good.
Yeah, he got. It was a spin-off. I think he got a spin-off.
Oh.
That's how it was. Like he got his own thing, I think, because he is a billionaire inventor who is thrust into a world of sci-fi experience. Yeah. That's what I thought. Okay, yeah. So he got a spin-off after this because I assume because he was so well liked. I almost wonder if the CW brought him in just to see how he would do before they decided.
He was a pretty well fleshed out character with a good amount of backstory going on.
Yeah.
For a one episode guy. So I figured he would come back or like otherwise be doing things because it felt like he had a lot going on.
He only got one season though. That's so sad.
Oh. Is it already over?
Yeah, it was canceled. Yeah. It just didn't get the support from the CW that it deserved.
Oh no.
It performed relatively well for a summer show on the network. Oh, that's so sad. That's so tragic.
All right. So we are getting close to the main climax of this story because Nancy gets a beautiful dress for the Hudson party from this tech billionaire who they helped get the meteorite for. So then we are at the day of the party. Nancy is trying to meet with Mrs. Hudson the day of the party and is trying to like meet up with her, and she's like not showing up, but Mr. Hudson is, and Mr. Hudson says, hey, my accountant has been telling my secrets to people. He's gone missing. I need you to go find him. Nancy knows that Ned and Ryan were talking to the accountant, and so she's just like, okay, so I have to keep them safe while still doing this job so Hudson trusts me, but keep them safe and don't implicate them. And then they find that the accountant is dead. And so now she's just like, hey guys, what happened? And they don't know anything about it. So they're also trying to solve the murder because the accountant had dirt on Mr. Hudson and so we were trying to find out like where the evidence is. And so the guys are trying to go and Nancy's trying to do it and she's trying to protect them and they're trying to make sure she doesn't report anything back to Hudson, so they're not trusting her. So it's a very big thing. And again, it's the day of the party. And so the reporter is trying to talk to Mrs. Hudson and she doesn't show for that meeting either. But then we see Mrs. Hudson a couple times. So we see Celia a couple times and Nancy's trying to like talk about other things and Celia is just really focused on like, oh, we gotta plan for the party and we gotta do these things. And Mr. Hudson said, oh, she's just really focused on party planning. She gets like this. Um, so the accountant, the dirt that the accountant had was a video showing Everett Hudson committing a murder. And everyone's like, amazing. This could send him away. This is video evidence. So Ryan and Nick find out where the accountant thought the video was, and it's back at that hunting lodge that we were at in episode 1. Nancy realizes that Mr. Hudson knew the accountant was going to leak that information. So she's like, oh no, this is a trap. So she runs to try to stop them, but she gets there too late. And so Nick and Ryan are caught on camera as the ones who the accountant was leaking information to, so that Mr. Hudson knows that his son is not trying to be a good Hudson and is actually trying to take him down. Bum, bum, bum. It was crazy. It was a crazy episode. Like the last...
Sorry. Yes.
The last episodes in this season were true nail biters. Like everything is just getting wound up so tightly and so crazily, and you're just like, oh my gosh, what is happening? I'm freaking out. So Ryan and Nick are on camera. Mr. Hudson is seen watching the tape and now knows his son is trying to take him down. Nancy is running to Celia to try to be like, oh my gosh, Celia, your husband knows that your son is trying to take you down. Like, he's going to kill him. And Mrs. Hudson is still talking about that party and isn't really making sense and is starting to repeat herself. And Nancy realizes something is wrong. Celia is leading Nancy into a warehouse, into like a cold storage. And Nancy is just walking behind her. They're at a marina. Nancy's walking behind her, just being like, Celia, focus on this. And just knows something is so wrong. And then we see Celia's body and realize that all day we've been talking to a ghost. That's why she hasn't shown up for meetings where other people are there. She didn't show up for the meeting with the reporter. And she met up with Nancy a couple times, but just basically said the same things and wasn't paying attention because that's what was in her brain when she died. And Nancy,
I cried for that.
Heartbroken.
That was so sad.
I was so sad.
That was so awful. And she died a horrible way, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was like hung up, basically, like a big fish.
She was strung up, wasn't she? Yeah.
And so Nancy is just on the floor because she's like, my grandmother, who has, been trying to like protect me and care for me, and they've started to really, really bond. And so Nancy is distraught and then furious because she's like, Everett Hudson found out, and he did this, and I'm going to take him down. And then we have two episodes maybe, where Mr. Hudson, he gets ready for the party, and then Nancy and Gil kidnap him, get him into a house, tie him up, and then there's this whole horse and pony show where Ryan shows up and maybe Carson. I don't know. There's just like a variety of people ramping around. And Nancy is yelling at Hudson, and Mr. Hudson is trying to get Gil to set him free, or trying to pay him to set him free. And Ryan is trying to get Nancy to like do the right thing, and the police are on their way, and it's this whole thing. And Gil releases Mr. Hudson when Nancy and Ryan are in the other room, so he escapes. And Nancy and Ryan are so stressed out. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. And so we see Everett Hudson run home, run to a safe, grab out a videotape. And the accountant told us this videotape can never be destroyed. It can get lost, it can get misplaced, it can whatever, and it will always come back. And we've seen previously some other things where it's like something that's very guilt or something ghost related will always come back to you. Yeah. You cannot destroy it. And so there's no way he could have gotten rid of this videotape. But so he pulls this videotape out from a safe and turns around, and Nancy, Ryan, and Detective Tamura walk in the room because Nancy knew that if he was released and he would be on the run, he would go and get that tape so that no one else could have it. So she tricked him by working with Gil and Ryan to trick him into thinking he was escaping. And so they watch the video, and they watch a young Everett Hudson kill his brother in the woods. Very Cain and Abel. And Ryan is just like, my uncle, the one who disappeared when he was a child, and we never knew what happened to him, you killed him? And so Everett goes to jail, goes to prison. Ryan is disinherited, and the last scene we see is Nancy saying she's going to go to the press conference and tell them that she's a Hudson. And so we finally have that moment where we're saying Nancy is stepping into her heritage as the last remaining true heir of the Hudsons.
Yep.
And that is season 2. But yes, so we'll be back for to talk more about season 2 and talk about characters, character developments, any remaining storylines that have to be wrapped up, and really just finish out our conversations so that we can sometime soon move on to season 3.
Yes.
Any final thoughts for today?
I enjoyed season 2.
I did too.
I think I enjoyed season 2 more than season 1.
I did too.
There's so much more drama though in season 2. I feel like it was because there was so much more of a emotional roller coaster, and you're like, it was a lot.
It was a lot.
It honestly, the thing I love about the Nancy Drews and stuff is like, nowadays I feel like we get seasons that are just like 8 episodes, or a couple episodes, and not a whole lot happens, and you're like, well, that's cool. I miss 20 plus episode seasons where you're like, what?
Yeah.
It was so good though. It was so good, even though they had kind of the sections, and you were like, wait, we're still in the same season. It all, I feel like, worked together. It all, you know.
Yeah.
And having the one-off episodes that like weren't necessarily directly related to the overall arc, but still moved the storyline. We were talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayer earlier. It gave me those vibes where you'd have the monster of the week, but you still had stuff relating to the overall story.
Yeah. Little breadcrumbs, little things that you can maybe not really notice, but kind of give you a vibe or a starting point, or they get referenced later on. Yeah, they did a good job.
I love that stuff.
Writing out all the different pieces and just sliding them in. So sneaky. Some of them are so sneaky.
Yeah, and definitely the Carson Ryan relationship. Just, I think that was my favorite part of the whole season.
Yeah. Same.
They're so cute. Oh.
Yeah. Cool.
Oh, well, you can follow us, the podcast itself, on Twitter. I don't have an Instagram. On Twitter, YouTube, all the things. That it's, you know what? I'm not here. I don't know. It's no side quests. I think it's no side quests on everything.
Or I don't believe in side quests.
Or I don't believe in side quests. You can follow me at nenyaadamas. Well, you do that. I don't want to be here. Just let me out. You follow me at nenyaadamas everywhere. Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Twitch. You follow Sweetie or Lauren at sweetie_patat on everything.
Twitter,
Twitter, and
YouTube,
Twitch, I know for sure.
and Twitch.
Oh, YouTube now.
I have a singular video out on YouTube under sweetie_patat. And it is a 20-minute video of me playing QWOP for the first time.
Okay.
So,
I love that for you.
Yeah, it was a good time. I love
that for you. One episode is one video is enough to plug your YouTube.
Thank you. Thank you.
It is. You're welcome. You're welcome. That's all. We'll see you guys in part 2.
Bye.